After what you said last week about what it would mean to win your fourth MVP, what do you think of one of the 50 voters coming out and saying yesterday, quote, "I don't think you can be the biggest jerk in the league and punish your team and your organization and your fan base the way he did and be the MVP. I think he's a bad guy, and I don't think a bad guy can be the MVP at the same time."
I think he's a bum. I think he's an absolute bum. He doesn't know me. I don't know who he is. No one knew who he was probably until yesterday's comments. But I mean, and I listened to the comments, but to say he had his mind made up in the summertime, in the off season, that, you know, I had zero chance of winning MVP, in my opinion, should exclude, you know, future votes. You know, his problem isn't with me being a bad guy or the biggest jerk in the league, because he doesn't know me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know anything about me. I mean, I've never met him. I've never had lunch with him. I've never had an interview with him. His problem is I'm not vaccinated. You know, so if he wants to go on a crusade and collude and come up with an extra letter to put on the award just for this season and make it the most valuable vaccinated player, then he should do that. But he's a bum, and I'm not going to waste any time worrying about that stuff. He has no idea who I am. He's never talked to me in his life. But it's unfortunate that those sentiments. It's surprising that he would even say that, to be honest. But yeah, I knew this was possible. Talked about it on McAfee weeks ago. But crazy.
On a lighter note, I know you and Devontae both said you want to play and hope to play Sunday. I was wondering, though, do you think there's any correlation to playing in this game versus then how you might play 2 weeks later in a playoff game?
Not really. I don't think so. I think it's more just keeping the momentum going and the desire to be out there with the guys competing. You know, I know there's possible players who could return this week. I don't know what their status is going to be, but that's exciting for sure. But, you know, guys are healthy, guys want to play. I mean, there's risk every time you take the field. There's obviously the idea about rust and compared to momentum. But, yeah, I mean, I want to be out there and be with my guys. And I'm assuming that's still the plan.
Jason Wilde.
Aaron, following up on Rob's question there, when I think back to 2011, I know you said to Pat that, you know, the media will second guess you either way. My recollection of that was, at least from where I was sitting, I thought maybe everything with Joe Philbin losing his son was maybe a greater factor than rust. That was a pretty emotional week for us, and I can't even imagine for someone like you. So when you look back on 2011, do you think in any way that affected the way the offense performed, whether it was the rust or the emotion of the week? Because I'm wondering if you see any correlation, if that influences why you want to play this week.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like that sometimes gets lost in the conversation about what happened that year when Joe's son passed away. That was a difficult week for all of us, especially obviously the Philbins. You know, Joe was such an important part of what we did, and not having his presence and just feeling that sadness, energy in the facility was really tough. You know, we played uncharacteristically poor, and things happened that hadn't happened all season. I believe John fumbled. I threw a pick. We got beat on a sluggo to Greg, would have been an easy touchdown. We gave up a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. A lot of you know, crazy things happened. They obviously were playing good. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year, but there was definitely factors such as, you know, the sadness around the facility that I think played an impact on it. But I don't believe it was rust. I really don't. You know, we were riding so high, and many guys played in week 17 against the Lions and had good games. So you know, I think it was just a combination of them playing well and us not handling the elements very well, and us doing some uncharacteristic things.
Tom Silverstein.
Aaron, is there any doubt in your mind that if you did sit out this week that you would not be as good as you would if you played this week?
Tom, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Is there any doubt in your mind that if you did sit out, you'd be the same guy who was playing if you did play this weekend? Sorry if that's confusing.
No, I understand the gist of the question, and I don't, there wouldn't be any doubt. You know, it's similar to the take on practicing versus not practicing. You obviously love to practice, but you have to adjust your preparation in order to perform on the field on game day. It's similar. I mean, the week is the week of preparation, and obviously the bye is helpful, but we're still going to practice on the bye. It's not like we're just taking an entire week off. You know, and I don't know if the plan is to play the entire game on Sunday. So it's more, it would seem, to get out there, to stay sharp, to be efficient, and keep the momentum going. But I wouldn't have any doubts were later in the week, Matt, to say, hey, you know, I think I want to shut you down, Mercedes, Devontae, some of these guys. I wouldn't, you know, have any worries, but I do feel like, you know, going out there and keeping the momentum going and putting a good performance out there in the last game of the year, you know, does have some merit.
Mike Spofford, go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, you've obviously talked a lot over the years about the connection you had with Jordy, what you have going on now with Devontae. Assuming you guys play long enough for Devontae to break that 15-19 that Jordy had 7 years ago, what's this like for you to be a part of, you know, that record the first time and then another guy, you know, breaking it here?
Yeah, it's special. Those guys are both incredible players, unique in their own ways, and they both, you know, did things, so many things extremely well. You know, the players that stick around in this league are guys who can do at least one thing excellent. And those guys were blessed with, you know, many talents that separate themselves from other players around the league. And Jordy obviously was such a good route runner, good at setting up the routes, and obviously great hands, great timing, great scramble drill awareness. You know, fast enough to get down the field and hit those corner posts we hit for years, and tough enough to block and to break tackles. Devontae, you know, he's just so talented. His releases are incredible. His ball awareness, his timing, his you know, his hands, his ability to make contested catches, his ability to create separation and short spaces in the red zone. So two uniquely different guys, but two guys who at the core, you know, really understand the quarterback position and timing and spacing and intricacies of the offense and how to cheat the system to their advantage. And, you know, that's just a huge blessing, being able to play with those two guys and to see them shine and break franchise records is pretty awesome.
Hey, you won your first MVP a decade ago. I'm assuming you're going to win this one. Can you compare and contrast where you are at as a quarterback physically? Obviously, I'm sure you're leaps and bounds better mentally, but can you put into words kind of that decade progression there?
Yeah, I mean, the physical part is an interesting one because obviously I don't run as much as I used to. Less scrambles, less scramble drills, less touchdown throws outside the pocket, I would assume, based on that year. I think the older you get, the smarter you have to get in a number of different areas. Obviously, the experience gives you a lot of banked memories you can draw from, but physically, just from a physical standpoint, I probably weighed between 225 and 230 the majority of the season in 2011, and I've been between 215 and 220 in the majority of this season. So that 10 pounds has made a big difference for me. It's allowed me to still, you know, move in the pocket, to still, you know, keep my legs. Obviously, I've rededicated myself in the weight room to squats, which has been really important. You know, haven't had the knee problems that I even had, you know, 10 years ago, which has been great. But yeah, I think it's just playing smarter, you know, with diet and body maintenance off the field has been important to still play at a high level. But the greatest asset is the experience and the banked memories and the just the ability to play on instincts so often on game day.
When we used to do this at your locker with 15 or 20 media people, at some point you'd feel some guy looking over your shoulder and you look up and it was Tim Boyle. Was he doing that to learn or just get material for the next quarterback meeting? And what was it like working with him?
Okay, I'm going to answer the Mike Clemens, Tim Boyle question. If Tom can keep the sound down. I love Tim. Tim was like a little brother to me in the QB room, and we spent time off the field hanging out. He's a great guy. Real interesting guy, smart, gym rat, really worked his butt off to get better physically and then mentally, was always asking good questions and trying to figure out some of the stuff that I was doing on the field. But I love working with Tim. I mean, I think he's a great guy. I'm happy for him getting opportunities. I see him improving, and I want the best for Tim in this league because he's one of the great guys in this league, and he deserves it.
We'll try MK Burgess. Go ahead.
Aaron, I'll keep this short. How do you make sure you don't start slow at Ford Field like you have in the past?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any great answer other than we got to be efficient, on our first few series. There's been some disjointed games, I think long possessions for them, playing keep away, especially, week 2 when we played them. But I don't know, it just comes down to executing, especially like the first third down of the game. And the first time you get in the red zone, you got to put points on the board. And we just, obviously haven't done that the last couple of times there. I know we were down by a few scores a few years ago, and last year I think we were tied. So, yeah, it's just about we need probably a stop would help too. They had these long time consuming drives, and then we go 3 and out and long consuming drives. So, we need to score and then get a stop, and then, make the game a little more one dimensional early.
Ryan Wood.
Aaron, first of all, it's great to see 2022 off to a sparkling start. Because it's been put out there in the public by an MVP voter, it seems only fair to get the insight from an MVP candidate. Do you think that your off the field comments regarding COVID-19 this season should be a factor in the MVP voting? And do you think that your candidness with Pat each week has been in any way detrimental to the team?
Well, I mean, like I recommended the book that I've recently read. You can guess how many, what's I give about, that subject. I've enjoyed immensely my time with Pat. I feel like it gives an insight into my personality and what's important to me. We talk about obviously a lot of football. We talk about some life stuff, life lessons, learning, mistakes, failures, positivity, manifestation, things that are important to me. And I enjoy that show, just like I enjoyed working with Jason for so many years. I feel like those opportunities gave me windows to let people in and to see the kind of person that I am. And so people wouldn't think I'm the biggest jerk in the NFL. But there's obviously a faction based on the response when I tested positive that, want to demonize me for my decision to be unvaccinated, want to adjust facts around that, want to, anytime something comes up with me, me mentioning the largest book on my bookshelf, Atlas Shrugged, triggers people. That's the environment that we're living in. There is not room for dissenting opinions or individual freedoms or informed consent ideas or people to have a different view than you. And, I'm somebody who has an allergy to ingredients in the mRNA vaccinations. That's not even good enough to have an opinion or to even have a question about things. So I knew, Pat joked about it on the show a while back. I knew he was serious. And I think we both were serious at the time. Obviously, I've made it a little more difficult by the way I've played in the last 6 weeks. I think the MVP should be about the most valuable player on the team. And a lot of times it goes to the best player on the best team. And we're the best team. So if voters want to use the off season or don't like my stance being unvaccinated, that's their prerogative. I don't think it's right, but that's their prerogative.
We're going to do 2 more. Dave Schrader, go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, do you got me?
Yeah, Dave.
The last 3 seasons, you guys have had really remarkable stretches going into the playoffs. 5 straight wins 2 years ago, 6 straight last year. It would be 7 in a row if you win in Detroit. I'm wondering if you can pinpoint anything that you think has led to those stretches late in seasons and how big that is going into the playoffs to be able to have a stretch like that.
I think we've always played good football when the weather turns, and we've been a tough team at home over the years. And we've done a nice job in the November and December months playing at home. The urgency goes up, obviously, but it goes up for every team around the league. I think it just comes down to the execution. A lot of times we're hitting our stride at that point, or we're just continuing. And what's happened to us this year has been such a myriad of injuries and other issues. We've gotten guys back at times. We've found depth, especially on the offensive line. We've had so many guys play important roles for us that we're slated to be backups maybe beginning of the season, and that's really helped us. I think it really has. Obviously, we've done a great job of taking care of the football with just 10 turnovers, this season. That's a huge help. And then the defense, causing, I believe, 26 has been really big too. So, when we're plus 16 in the turnover ratio, you're going to win a lot of games like that, and gives us a chance to be in every game by not turning the football over. And as we've seen, I think it's not just the offense has been playing well, defense has been doing good. And maybe most importantly, the special teams has leveled out. And obviously Mason's been very accurate of late. Bojo's had a nice season, but we're covering better. We had a punt return over 20 yards last week. So we're playing complementary football in all 3 phases. I think if you go back and look at some of the last couple of seasons, the way we finished up, it was probably pretty similar.
But do you think that's important? Do you think, though, that's important going into the playoffs for teams to be on a stretch like this?
No, I mean, the most important thing is healthy and hot. You got to be the healthiest team, and the hottest team usually makes the deepest run. So, hopefully we can get out of this next game healthy and get some guys back and keep the hotness going.
Last one, Aaron Nagler.
Aaron, you mentioned the corner post a little bit ago that you used to throw to Jordy. Do you miss that play? I mean, it was so awesome when you would roll out and you'd have that personal protector. It felt like the whole stadium kind of started to stand up because we all knew what was coming. Do you miss that? Do you wish you could bring that back?
Well, we've tried a few times, but yeah, man, that was a fun stretch there where every time it was called, you could see the line kind of perk up a little bit. They knew, okay, here comes a bomb. We're gonna score on this play. And John as well. John Kuhn was often my protector on that play, and even his eyes, he'd get excited, and he just kind of knew something good was about to happen. And we hit it so many times. Jordy was the best at running that route. For whatever reason, he could weave that thing and create separation and catch the ball running full speed, going away from a guy. And I could just seem to find him. I mean, some of the throws that we had, worked out just perfect. I just felt like, I could always kind of throw to him blind, almost even on that route. But it takes that guy running that, and then teams to, not expect it. I think it kind of became a little more expected, and we, didn't really hit one, I'd say, for the last, 4 or 5 years that way. We've run a similar route, but just not out the same type of action that we did during those times.